Boy, will it be cold for the Lions-Bears Week 16 matchup. By the time of kickoff Sunday, 1 p.m. EST, the Weather Channel is predicting that it will be 31 degrees at Soldier Field, but will feel more like a frigid 22 degrees. And by the expected end of the game, 4 p.m., the temperature is expected to rise all the way to, wait for it, just 32 degrees. These conditions will put to the test the theory that Jared Goff and the Lions are not equipped to play in cold weather. To combat the frigid temps, there's a chance that Goff will wear his signature white gloves, something that he did on both hands in Detroit's Week 9 win over the Packers at Lambeau Field. I've got different tools I can use, like you mentioned, the gloves. We'll see how it goes on Sunday if I feel like I need them, Goff told Tim 20man on this week's episode of the 20-Man in the Huddle podcast. As for the determining factor on whether he will don the gloves, the veteran signal caller expressed, "Usually just pregame, I can tell right away, just feel of the ball, and I throw it. Sometimes I joke with myself. I throw it better with the gloves on, so I feel good with those things on." The Lions did lose their last road tilt with the Bears, a game which just so happened to occur last December. That is a thing of the distant past, though, as Dan Campbell's team has been the definition of road warriors this season. In fact, Goff and co. have yet to lose a road contest in 2024, 6-0. For Goff, it's the perfect representation of the team's Detroit versus everybody mentality. It's cool. Detroit versus everybody, man. It is. That simple, Goff said of the key to the Lions' road supremacy. And 3 games in a row in front of our fans was cool. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes you like going on the road and feeling everyone against you. And I'm sure we'll have a pretty good contingency out there of Lions fans. You like that feeling a little bit. You like hearing the crowd get quiet when you throw a touchdown. You like having that everyone's against you feeling, and we'll get that for the next 2 weeks. On Sunday, the Lions will be looking to bounce back from a disappointing Week 15 loss to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. It saw Aaron Glenn's injury-ravaged defense give up a season-high 48 points. Since then, a large sect of Detroit fans have reacted ultra-negatively, acting as if the Lions' season, despite the 12-2 start, is over all of a sudden. "I don't quite understand the sentiment of that," the veteran quarterback expressed. "I knew it would happen at whatever point, that the winning streak would come to an end. Of course, you don't want it to come to an end. You want it to go all the way through the Super Bowl and to win every game. But it's hard. It's really hard." If you trust in the words of Goff, there's no reason to think for even a second that the sky is falling down on the Lions. "We're in good shape, man," Goff said. "We're 12-2, we've got 3 games ahead of us. We've got a big division game this week, one that we'll be fired up for, and I'm sure they'll be fired up on the other side. We'll be going one at a time. We want to win this one, and then so on and so forth, but we're in fine shape." And I think Dan does a good job of leading that charge and keeping us level-headed. And to be honest, people always ask, what's changed? What's different? Nothing. It's the same as it was last week. It's the same as it was the week before. Nothing's changed internally besides our record, and we're good. In the first time out against the Bears this season, Goff and co. produced 23 points in a winning effort, but squandered multiple opportunities to score more. In fact, the Lions went just 2 for 5 in the red zone in the Week 13 contest. Per Goff, expect offensive coordinator Ben Johnson to insert a new wrinkle or two into the game plan for Sunday's divisional matchup with Chicago. "That's the chess game that you play," Goff said, of being able to scheme for a team a second time in a season. "It's fun for Ben and I, and more fun for him. He's trying to decide what play to call and what design to come up with tonight and throughout the week. It's cool to play that game a little bit." Now it becomes even more complicated when they change coaching. Thomas Brown is current Bears interim head coach, and so you don't even really know what's the new guy's philosophy. So there are a lot of pieces there, but at the same time, we're going to change things as well, so they'll have to prepare for that. The Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears released their final injury reports of the week on Friday, ahead of their Week 16 matchup on Sunday, and a total of 3 players have been ruled out, 7 are questionable, and 1 is doubtful between the 2 teams. As expected, running back David Montgomery has been ruled out after suffering an MCL injury last week. It was initially believed that Montgomery would be out for the season, but there is optimism he could make it back in the playoffs. Optimistic with a couple of doctors that he saw, the last 2. I think we may see where this thing goes, head coach Dan Campbell said of Montgomery. It certainly sounds more optimistic. Also out is linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who was surprisingly designated to return from injured reserve this week. It was surprising because Campbell gave a less than positive update on him a few weeks back. Jalen Reeves-Maybin is better, but it's just slow going right now, Campbell said on deck. 9. So, I don't really know where he could be. There is a chance that we get him in a few weeks, there's a chance that we don't. So, it's just where we're at. The simple fact that Reeves-Maybin is inching closer to a return is fantastic news for a Lions defense that has been hit particularly hard by injury at the linebacker position. Safety Ifeatu Melifonwu was also designated to return from IR recently, but he has drawn a questionable tag and is uncertain to play. He did, however, turn in 3 full practices this week, so there appears to be a chance he suits up. Yeah, I mean, so much of this was about getting his legs back under him, getting him comfortable this week, Campbell said of Melifonwu. We're not close to that. I'm not close to that. He's gotten a little better every day, and he'll go out there today and practice, and we're working him in some stuff. Just see where he's at. But it's good to have him back, and it's good to see him out there, functioning, working the position, and so that's a good thing. Whenever he returns, Melifonwu will give the Lions options in the secondary in the wake of veteran cornerback Carlton Davis suffering a significant injury. Also listed as questionable are safety Brian Branch and guard Graham Glasgow, both of whom finished off the week with a limited session. There's no update on whether or not either one will play as of this writing. The biggest names we're keeping an eye on for the Bears are defensive lineman Gervin Dexter, cornerback Jalen Johnson, and offensive lineman Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins, all of whom are questionable. Jones was the only one out of Chicago's questionable players to log a full practice on Friday. Now, a look at the full list of injury designations for the Bears and Lions ahead of the 1 p.m. ET kickoff on Sunday. Okay, this was kind of hard, but I wanted to challenge myself with this one. On Thursday, ESPN's Bill Barnwell ranked the worst decision of all 32 NFL teams in the last 5 years. The Lions came in pretty low on the list, and the mistake they chose had nothing to do with Brad Holmes. It was Bob Quinn's selection of Jeff Okudah, with the 3rd overall pick in 2020 that got the nod for the Lions. This got me thinking, is there a bad thing that Brad Holmes has done in the last 4 years that you could say, man, that was the worst thing he has done? Holmes has drafted incredibly well, and even in the small moments where you question a pick he has made, you almost always wind up being wrong about it later. He's been fairly good at free agency as well. This year, the Lions rebuilt their cornerback room, and it's worked very well. They did fail at it last year, but that clearly didn't stop them from almost going the distance. So what can you point at and say that was the worst thing he's done? I think I have one. Holmes may have been a little too overconfident in his team's pass rush ability since 2022. The Lions scored huge on Aiden Hutchinson, but they have yet to find a partner in crime for him. The Lions have pretty much sat out drafting or signing edge rushers in the last 2 years, and the one guy they did sign, Marcus Davenport, has dealt with injuries annually and is currently out for the season with an injury. Josh Paschal and Levi Onwuzurike are 2 good players, and they are phenomenal depth, but neither has really shown that they can be weekly starters that can make a huge difference. I get where some of the confidence comes from. John Kaminsky put forth a really nice 2022. Nobody knew he would struggle a ton in 2023 and then miss 2024. You can't predict those things. The Davenport one felt like you could set your watch to it, but I still understand to a degree. I can also understand why Holmes didn't elect to trade for anyone at the deadline last year or sign any of the super high-priced guys this year. I can't understand why he didn't draft anyone or why he didn't sign a 2nd or 3rd-tier guy to help out. Holmes has sat still on edge rushers until he really needed to, bringing in Zadarius Smith this year at the deadline after losing Hutchinson. Now the Lions have a pair next year, assuming that Smith is still able to bring what he's been bringing this year. The Lions might still want to double down and draft one. This hasn't shown to be a huge problem for the Lions at the end of the day, and I'm not really even harping on the guy a lot. The exercise was to find something that you could say was the worst thing Holmes has done so far. This is what I chose. If this is as bad as it gets, then the Lions are in good shape for a while.